Good morning and welcome to the Take Your Life Back Today show. My name is Ralf Friedrichs. I'm an addiction recovery coach, a life coach, and the host of this show, the Take Your Life Back Today show. God and sobriety. How do the two mix? Well, sobriety is a good thing and God is a great thing. It happens even when we don't want it to. My first period of recovery was, well, honestly, one of the greatest experiences of my life. I felt like an incredible sense of lightness and explicable inner peace that even when I felt going back to drinking, I didn't. Never really wanted to. For a long time, I was motivated to stay sober. Then I relapsed. This was in 2012. And for that, what seems like no good reason, it just happened. I wasn't struggling. I wasn't experiencing intense urge and seemed like life was to a point where it was on a great path. But Satan is called the tempter or the temper for a reason. He will exploit any weakness, even as he attempted to cause a weakened Christ to sin in the desert. The word reminds us no one is, not even Christ, outside of temptation. In fact, Christ was tempted in every way in Hebrews 4:15. As fallible human beings, we are given to temptation, and at times it's a barrage when we least expect it. The temper is cunning, and we all are susceptible. It's really hard to break from. One of the most difficult things to do is to break an addiction, that I promise you, and relapse actually makes it worse. When Christians relapse, the feelings of failure is often so strong that it drives even deeper into addictive behavior. That sense of failure is manipulative, and it is very harmful. Christian's sister or brother can do for someone struggling to gain release from relapse is to remind that they are not failures even when they relapse. That the progress that has made is real progress, and the further progress is achievable. Paul's admonition in the Church of Galilee said it when he said that we all make mistakes. It is critical for us to remember, especially when the burden of addiction is so heavy that relapse makes it difficult to pick oneself up. God sent value, and God doesn't value you any less. It's dangerous, a lie to believe that God is very angry with us when we give in to sin. Christ utterly absorbed and dispelled the wrath of God in Calvary's tree. Romans 8:1 reminds us that there are no condemnation. Our sins are forgotten by God. Nevertheless, we forget that God's abounding love for us even when we relapse, because we're falling into a sin that sometimes seems to be unsurmountable. When God does see in those moments, it's our pain and our brokenness, and he desires to reside with us in those dark times, in those dark places, in those dark periods. He also grieves over the natural consequences of our sins, my friends, which in cases of addiction can be severe. There is no shame. Shame is sometimes useful in that it helps us to feel uncomfortable about something that we've done wrong. But in relapse, it should never be more than a realization. Allowing oneself to settle into shame, to live in a negative space, not only allows the enemies a further weakness to exploit, it also stalls one's reaching point of recovery. Brené Brown, author and expert on vulnerability, guilt, and shame, believes that these feelings get in the way of true healing from addictive behaviors. As a shame researcher, I know that the very best thing to do in the midst of shame attack is totally counterproductive. Practice courage and reach out to your fellow man. And we have to keep in mind that it might happen again. Above, I mentioned that we are all susceptible to temptation, and that means relapse can happen anytime to anyone, even after they found recovery, even for a person like me after all these years sober. I once knew an alcoholic and AA that had suffered through relapse after relapse, found sobriety, maintained it for 30 years, and then in his 70s, relapsed again. The combination of a good recovery program, a good recovery method, and the power of prayer and the power of God keeps you in a better position of a relapse. But remember, if you do relapse, God doesn't value any less. There is no shame. Remember that addictions are very hard to break from. But also remember that God is there for you. God will see you through each and everything. And God will never judge you. He won't punish you. But what He will do is comfort you. He will be there during your darkest times, your darkest hours, your darkest places in life. But you have to reach out to Him. Remember, God gave you 86,400 seconds today to live. Utilize them in a productive way by saying thank you, by helping someone that might be out there that is less fortunate. A simple smile will go a million miles away. 844-405-HELP. Remember, you and I, we can help each other take our lives back. And remember this, for God so loved the world that He gave His own begotten Son. Would you, as a parent, as a grandparent, do the same? Call me at 844-405-HELP. We can help each other take our lives back, and may God bless each and every one of you. And remember, God and sobriety is a great combination.